I asked Claude, ChatGPT, and Gemini the same question. What's the most reliable way to get consistent business reports? And they all gave me the same answer. So I tested it. Here's what actually happened. So a few weeks ago, I got a comment on one of my videos about creating business reports with AI. They wanted to know why I didn't just use Claude artifacts to generate consistent business reports over time. And look, this is a huge question people are struggling with, right? You spend 2 hours, maybe 3, getting AI to create the perfect sales report for your business. Sections in the right order, metrics that actually matter, and analysis that makes sense. Then next month rolls around, you feed it new data and completely different format, different sections, different emphasis. And you're sitting there thinking, wait, what happened to my report? And here's why this matters. You can't build a business process on something that's unreliable. So if your monthly sales review looks different every time, your team can't track trends and you can't spot patterns and you can't make confident decisions. So I needed to know what actually works for getting consistent AI reports. So I did what any data analyst would do, and I asked the AI themselves. I went to Claude, ChatGPT, and Gemini, and I asked them all the same question. How do you get consistent business reports every time? And they all told me the same 3 things. Option 1, you use the same chat thread, just giving it new data. They said this will work until your context window fills up with too much conversation history. After generating a number of reports, the results will begin to drift from what you had asked for originally. Option 2, they said, was that you could use a new chat thread in the same project. The AI said this probably won't work reliably because the AI might be able to see the original report, but it'll naturally adjust its approach based on the new data context, even if it can reference the previous report. So essentially, even if there's another report there, the AI is going to give greater priority to what's right in front of it in the current chat. Option 3, they said you create a new project with a system prompt and knowledge document for that report. They said this is the enterprise level solution. Create a knowledge document with all the instructions and guardrails to create the report, then use that in a fresh chat. It's the most reliable method. Now that's what all the AIs claimed, all of them. So let's test it. So here's exactly what I did. I ran the same test protocol across Claude, ChatGPT, and Gemini. I used flagship models and default settings. I gave them the same business scenario for all of them, using sales data to create a monthly business report. Then I created 3 different data sets with the same structure, different numbers of transactions, customers, products, and revenue. Also, I could tell if the AI was actually recreating the report or just regurgitating the same thing. Now for test 1, I used the same chat thread. I created the initial report and then submitted new data and asked the AI to recreate the original report format. For test 2, I started a new chat thread in the same project. If the AI can reference the artifact from the same chat, but it's starting with fresh new data, we wanted to see if it could replicate the report. For test 3, I started a new project with a knowledge document and a system prompt. I had each AI create a knowledge document containing all the instructions, guardrails, and system prompts needed to recreate that report. Then I started fresh. I loaded that knowledge document, submitted new data, and asked it to build the report. 9 reports total, and I'm not comparing which AI is better here. I'm testing which method actually produces the most consistent results. Now here's how I measured consistency. 8 things that actually matter for business reporting. Number 1, the same number of sections. Did it keep all the original report sections, or did it add or drop sections? Number 2, the same section headers. Because marketing overview versus marketing metrics, well, those details are going to matter when your team is looking for a specific structure, and the differences can increase cognitive load when you're reviewing and interpreting the results. Number 3, the same order of sections. If your team expects revenue analysis first, that's where it should be every time. Number 4, same formatting. When reports are formatted differently from one iteration to the next, quickly identifying a specific chart or table and comparing results across reports can become more challenging. And number 5, similar table structures. The tables need to have the same format for presenting data. This means rows and columns need to be in the same layout. Number 6, similar narrative length per section. Brief summaries versus detailed analysis. This needs to be consistent. You can't have 2 sentences one month and 2 paragraphs the next unless there truly are major differences in the results. Number 7, same metrics emphasized. Is your report highlighting total revenue or average order value? This emphasis needs to stay consistent so you're tracking what matters over time. And number 8, calculations are accurate in both. Because frankly, wrong numbers equal wrong decisions, period. So each report gets scored out of 8 points. Simple. The original report is the baseline. Every new version gets compared against that baseline. This means an 8 out of 8 means perfect consistency. And 5 out of 8 means you've got some serious differences that might confuse your team. So let's see what happened. Hey, if you're finding this valuable so far or thinking, yeah, this is what I wanted to know, do me a favor and hit that like button. It helps other business owners find this kind of real testing instead of the usual AI hype. So let's get to the results now. All right, for the first test, we're staying in the same chat thread. We're just feeding the AI new data. And this is the scenario that the AI said would work, at least initially. So the results showed all 3 AIs scored 7 out of 8. Now, the results across all 3 AIs were highly consistent, just as they predicted. Claude had one small calculation error that could have been easily corrected. Gemini actually had many large calculation errors, and ChatGPT had some noticeable formatting differences. Now, these results aren't surprising. This was the easy scenario. The AI had all the context right there in the conversation. But remember, the AI's warned that this doesn't scale. As you keep running reports in the same thread, your context window is going to fill up, and eventually it's going to start to forget the original format. Or small minor differences from one iteration to the next could creep in, and the output will start to drift from the original structure over time. In fact, I tested this by running 16 reports with different datasets through Claude, and each time I received the exact same structure and format in the report. So this result suggests that the commenter on my original video was at least partially correct. However, that's not the whole story, so we'll come back to this in a minute. Now, this is where it gets interesting. For the second test, we use a new chat thread, but we stay in the same project where it can reference the original report artifact. The AIs predicted this would fail. They said even with access to a previous report, the AI would naturally adapt to the new data context in the new chat thread. So let's see if they were right. Claude scored 2 out of 8, ChatGPT and Gemini both scored 0 out of 8. Wow. For both Claude and ChatGPT, when I moved to a new chat thread, the results were considerably different from the original report. We're talking different numbers of sections, different headers, different section orders, different formatting, different table structures. Almost everything was noticeably off. Now, to be fair, the Claude and ChatGPT reports weren't so dramatically different that they were unusable. However, they were far from what you or I would call consistent business reporting. Now, you might be asking what happened to Gemini in this test. Well, gems are the Gemini equivalent of Claude and ChatGPT projects. However, you can't have multiple chat threads within one gem. So the closest thing I could do was create a gem with the same initial system prompt. When I started a new instance of that gem and gave it new data, the results were quite different, scoring 0 out of 8. However, if I gave a second set of data to the gem in the same chat thread with that original report, Gemini was able to recreate the report quite well at a 7 out of 8. Now, this is an important finding because it emphasizes the importance of examples for consistency in large language models like Claude, ChatGPT, and Gemini. I'll come back to this in a minute. So why did these AI models fail so badly in this test? Well, without explicit instructions baked into the system, the AI sees new data and thinks, I should adjust my approach to fit this context. It's trying to be helpful, but what you need is consistency and structure, not creativity. Even for a savvy business person like yourself, having these kinds of inconsistencies make you work harder to parse the information in each report and link it to your cognitive landscape for your business reporting. This wears on you and forces you to burn more mental energy than it should. The consistency of a good, well-structured report will help reduce that mental burden and allow you to keep moving forward with less friction. So the AIs were right. This method doesn't work reliably. Which brings us to test 3. All right, this is the one they all recommended. In the third test, we use a new project, or for Gemini, a new gem. No conversation history, just a knowledge document containing all the instructions, all the guardrails, and the system prompt needed to recreate this exact report. This is supposed to be the enterprise level solution, the most reliable method for consistent AI reporting. I had each AI create this knowledge document and system prompt for the initial report while they had access to that report in that original chat. So if they're able to replicate a report they can see in the same chat thread, they should be able to write the instructions to replicate it as well. Then I started completely fresh. I created a new project, a new chat, loaded in the knowledge document, submitted a data set, and I asked the AI to build a report. So did it work? Claude scored 4 out of 8. ChatGPT scored 1 out of 8. And Gemini scored a 6 out of 8. Well, that's not exactly what they promised when using Claude and ChatGPT. For Claude, the main discrepancies had to do with the section headers and the order of sections. The system prompt and knowledge document approach consolidated the information under 3 broad categories compared to 4 categories in the original report. There were also some minor formatting discrepancies, giving Claude a 4 out of 8. ChatGPT just completely botched the report. To be honest, the report generated by the system prompt and knowledge document method wasn't even close to the original report created. Virtually everything was off, and I'll explain that more in a moment, but ChatGPT gets a 1 out of 8. Gemini was able to create the original report using the system prompt and knowledge document for the most part. The biggest issue by far was that Gemini had severe hallucinations and inaccurate calculations, even making up categories of products that didn't exist in the original data. Now, I have to put a few caveats on these results. So the first caveat is I didn't test or edit these knowledge documents and system prompts that were generated by AI tools from the original report. So if the AI did a poor job of creating the knowledge document in the first place, then it would not be likely to replicate the original report. And that's what happened to ChatGPT and Gemini. The knowledge document ChatGPT created was not well aligned with the original report. And the document that Gemini created was very brief and did not contain sufficient detail to really replicate the report well. Second, these tests don't take into account the complexity of the initial report that was generated. So if an AI tool creates a more complex report to begin with, then it also has to create a more complex knowledge document and system prompt with more nuance. And this is partially why Gemini scored so high on this test. Objectively, Gemini's initial report was the simplest of the 3, and it did not include the levels of complexity and nuance that Claude and ChatGPT put into their reports. Third, and this is a big one, we know that AIs love to have examples. And one of the biggest drawbacks of the system prompt and knowledge document method is that the only information available to the AI for generating a report is from the knowledge document. So if your knowledge document isn't very specific and very clear, you leave yourself open for the AI to introduce differences. By including an example of the report you want in your instructions to the AI, you create a template with reinforcing instructions in the knowledge document that the AI can more easily follow. This is, in fact, why the AI was able to easily replicate a report that had been developed in the same chat thread as the replication. There was already a built-in example. Based on these findings, I decided to do one more test. Since I know there were some differences between the original reports and the instructions developed in the knowledge documents, I thought it was a bit unfair to continue comparing the results to the original report we created. However, I still didn't know how well the system prompt and knowledge document could replicate a report over and over again. So I added the report we created using the system prompt and knowledge document as a secondary knowledge document in each project. This report would serve as an example for the AI to work from, along with the instructions in the knowledge document. Then I replicated the report 2 more times using different data. This test is designed to see whether the combination of a system prompt, a knowledge document, and an example report increase the consistency and reliability of reporting. And here are the results. Claude scored 6 out of 8. ChatGPT scored 7 out of 8, and Gemini scored 7 out of 8. Adding in an example report, when combined with the system prompt and knowledge document, produced far better results consistently over multiple iterations for both Claude and ChatGPT. For Claude, there were some minor differences in the section header titles and formatting, as well as a couple of sections in different locations. For ChatGPT, the differences were minor formatting issues only. And Gemini continued to have difficulty getting the analysis correct, but this was more of a problem with the knowledge document not being specific enough. It's important to say again, I didn't edit the knowledge documents at all, which is very important for consistent reporting. You really should adjust these files and test them until you're getting consistent results. All right, so here's what actually works for consistent AI business reporting. In test 1, we used the same chat thread and just recreated the report in that thread. It's good for quick iterations when you're refining a report in real time, but it really isn't a long-term solution. Eventually, the context window will betray you and you'll start to see some drift. In test 2, we used a new chat in the same project. I would not rely on this method. The AI will often make adjustments that don't preserve the structure and the formatting that you originally wanted. And in test 3, we used the system prompt and knowledge document method. And this works. The AIs were mostly right. This is your best bet for reliable, consistent business reporting. It's not perfect, but significantly better than the alternatives. Now, in this test, I didn't do any editing on the knowledge document to ensure it was producing the exact report structure that we started with. But the AI was still able to reliably reproduce the report at a 7 out of 8 on our scoring rubric. Now, in previous tests I've posted on this channel, when I add appropriate guardrails to the knowledge document, the consistency really is quite good. Importantly, when I coupled the system prompt and knowledge document with an example report that was structured and formatted exactly the way I wanted it, the AI had few problems replicating that report across multiple iterations with different data sources. So here's my practical recommendation. If you only need to create 1 or 2 cycles of a report, then keeping everything in one chat thread is a quick solution. However, it's an unstable solution. If you accidentally delete the chat thread or something happens with the AI tool you're using, you'll be back to square one unless you use a previous report as an example. The best solution suggested by these results is the system prompt and knowledge document method. Additionally, since we know LLMs love examples, if you can give the AI an example report in addition to the knowledge document, you'll be much happier with the results you get. If you want to set up this kind of consistent reporting for your AI, I recommend you follow this process to get what you need. First, iterate with the AI to generate the report you want. Get everything set up the way you want it, even if you need to interactively edit the artifact or the Canvas document to do so. Second, export a copy of the report as an example. Export it in the format you want the AI to generate for the final report each time, such as a PDF, a Word document, a Markdown document, whatever it is. You'll need this document as an exemplar for the AI to work from in later iterations. Third, ask the AI to create a knowledge document and system prompt that will exactly replicate the report in the artifact or canvas. You want to do these 2 documents at the same time, the knowledge document and the system prompt, so that the AI can ensure they work together seamlessly. Make sure that the knowledge document includes definitions and formulas for all metrics, the document structure and order of sections, templates, examples, and descriptions of all graphs, charts, and tables, all formatting decisions regarding fonts, font sizes, colors, and spacing, and clear guardrails to prevent the AI from adding or removing information not included in the example report. Fourth, test the system prompt, knowledge doc, and example report in a new project. You want to make sure that the knowledge document is actually producing the information you want and that there was no slippage during the creation of the knowledge document like we saw in this test today. Edit the documents as necessary to ensure it's creating exactly the report you want. Once you get a consistent result, you should be good to go. Fifth, set up the final project or custom GPT. When everything is working consistently, set up a new project, custom GPT, or GEM to create this report time and time again. Now all you need to do is submit the new data whenever you want a new version of the report. And sixth, verify the performance after your AI releases any updates. And this is important. Even minor updates to a model could cause it to begin interpreting the knowledge documents and example reports slightly differently and introduce differences in results. So it's always good to review the reporting results and make any needed tweaks to keep everything on track after an update. Now, if this kind of real-world AI testing is valuable to you, if you want to see me test more of these best practices everyone talks about but nobody actually verifies, hit that subscribe button, because I'm going to keep testing what the AIs claim versus what actually works in real business scenarios, and I'll be posting the results here every week. Now, if the knowledge document method works for you and you want to actually implement this in your business, I've got a complete walkthrough video where I show you the entire process step by step. I walk through creating the knowledge document, setting up the system prompts, the whole thing. The link is in the description. It's the one about creating consistent AI reports. I've also got a free quiz called Your Best AI Next Steps that helps you figure out exactly where you are in your AI journey and gives you 3 specific strategies to move forward. That link's in the description too. So there you have it. I hope you found this video helpful. Please let me know in the comments how this process works for you. I'll see you in the next video.